Welcome, everyone. My name is Good morning and welcome, or excuse me, good afternoon. I'm Chair Butler and happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you for being here at our bi-monthly meeting. I want to welcome all of our guests and, of course, thank you to all the commissioners who took the time today. I know we're waiting on a couple more, but I confirmed with the 7 people today that they were going to be here, so we should have quorum at some point. And now I guess we can't do roll call, and we can't approve the last minutes, correct? Not yet.
So you can do roll call, however, you cannot take a vote. So approving the meeting minutes from the August 8th meeting cannot be approved until there's quorum.
Absolutely. Then can we do roll call, Ava?
My apologies, I'm multitasking. Yes, let me grab the draft agenda. Signify by saying present or aye or yes. Chair Butler,
Present.
Vice Chair Wood.
I apologize. I didn't realize I was on mute. Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Ayala Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Moran. It's coming. Commissioner Riggs. Commissioner Mina.
Presente.
Commissioner Martinez.
Present.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Senator Campos. Representative Ruiz. Thank you.
All righty. Well, thank you for all those who are here. I just sent a couple of messages, double checking on seeing who will still be incoming. Of course, that does push us agenda items a couple ahead. Because I don't think we're gonna say, should we say public comment till everyone's here? Just want to double check that is okay.
So Chair Butler, it is your decision as chair to make that happen.
Okay.
Commissioner Mina, do you see your hand up as well?
Chair Butler, I have noticed that our interpretation is not on. Would you like me to help interpret until they log in?
Ava, any updates before it is 1:08.
I did send the link. Actually, I sent the link several weeks ago.
Well, in that case, that would be much appreciated if you'd be willing to provide that.
Yes, thank you for that.
Temporarily. Yeah, but then I definitely want to say public comments until our interpreters and at least one more commissioner joins. But that does give us room to talk about commissioner updates if anyone would be willing.
Esto nos da la oportunidad de hablar sobre las actualizaciones de los comisionados, si a alguien le gustaría empezar.
Righty, I can also call on folks.
Yo también puedo llamar a las personas.
I can start with some updates, and then I just want to be clear if I can use the time to share some updates, but also I requested some time for the agenda today. Is that separate? Perfect. Okay, I don't want to use up my 5 minutes. So I am currently working with Latino founders as a board member, as you can see behind me. And we're very excited to celebrate the Latino entrepreneurs throughout Oregon. Actualmente estoy trabajando con los Latino founders, como pueden ver en el fondo en el fondo. Y estoy emocionada de trabajar como parte de la mesa directiva. Currently, and for the first year, this 2024, we celebrated Pitch Latino in Seattle, in Bend, Central Oregon, which it was a cozy success. And thank you, Commissioner Mina, for supporting. And today, I am in Portland celebrating Pitch Latino PDX. So, estoy emocionada. En el 2024 hemos podido celebrar el Pitch Latino en Seattle, en Bend, y hoy se celebra en la ciudad de Portland. This year, there are over 30 businesses that have been supported that are Latino entrepreneurs. I'm talking about people that are doing technology, people that are doing beverages, people that have preschools, and all sorts of businesses throughout Oregon. En esta ocasión se ayudaron a más de 30 negocios que van desde tecnología, bebidas, productos empaquetados, hasta servicios como cuidado de niños y un montón de cosas. So that's something that I was excited to share with you all. And please, you can learn more about on latinofounder.com. And it's a nonprofit that tries, our goal is to make sure that within the next 5 years, we have 100 businesses making $1 million. And that comes within, for them, as a business owners throughout Oregon with the mission to create generational wealth. Entonces, la misión de Latino Founders, si pueden encontrar más información en latinofounder.com, es que en 5 años queremos que los negocios que pasen a través de nosotros puedan tener una ganancia de $1 millón al final de que pasen con nosotros, ¿no? Y esto para crear generational wealth en español. Riqueza generacional, no sé cuál es la palabra traducción adecuada, but that's just one thing. So, and I'll keep it short to that. Gracias.
Well, thank you. And I much appreciate your presence at the executive meetings, and I'm excited to join you later today here in Portland. It's gonna be fun. But I do want to notice that we are now at quorum. So thank you for joining us, Commissioner Moran and Commissioner Gonzalez. That also puts us into position to approve our minutes from the August meeting.
Gracias, comisionada Ayala, por participar en la reunión de comité ejecutivo. También he notado que tenemos a la comisionada Morán y comisionado González. Entonces podemos hacer la llamada de los presentes y aceptar la agenda y las notas de la reunión pasada.
And on that note, has everyone been able to review the minutes that were sent out by Ava yesterday?
Y en esa nota todos pudieron revisar las notas que mandó Eva ayer.
Of course, want to open any discussion, comments, concerns.
Y el espacio abierto para cualquier comentario o pregunta o preocupación.
Well, without hearing any discussion, I want to make a motion to approve the minutes from August. Do I have a second?
No veo ningún comentario de los comisionados. Hago una moción para aprobar las minutas. ¿Puedo encontrar a alguien que segunde la moción?
I will second that.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion?
¿Hay alguna otra discusión?
Well, then let's consider those approved.
Se consideran aprobados.
Alrighty, on that note, let's go on to agenda item number 3. Just want to open up the floor for any public comments.
Ahora me gustaría abrir la sesión de comentario público.
Hello, this is Fabio, Spanish interpreter. Sorry, I had trouble logging in and we didn't have the link, but I'm here now.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And if anyone needs any help locating how to access those services, just let one of us or the OACO staff know.
We have not been assigned as interpreters though.
Oh, like on the app?
Right, from Zoom, we need to be assigned to have our own channels.
Yeah.
A los participantes, si nos dan un espacio, tenemos los intérpretes que acaban de llegar, los van a asignar, denos unos momentitos y pronto van a poder escoger su lenguaje de preferencia.
Yeah. I'm seeing that assignment now. Are you able to access the channel? Go.
Yes, it is available now, and folks that need interpretation to Spanish will need to click the interpretation icon down at the bottom of the screen and select Spanish.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Accessibility is so important. With me and Dr. Kyle for helping us get that.
Muchas gracias, ya empezamos con eso.
Alrighty. Is there any other public comments?
¿Algún
far,
otro
anyone
comentario público? Ah, we lost it.
Yeah, I think we're on the same channel right now.
We had it, but then the bar disappeared.
Yeah, we lost the little icon went away.
It's
It's back now.
It is back now.
Alrighty. Well, of course, we'll also welcome comment after each agenda item too, so please feel free to chime in here or in the chat. I do want to bring us back to commissioner updates. Thank you, Commissioner Alaya. Do I have a volunteer to go next?
I do want to highlight that there are some comments or questions on the chat.
I'm sorry, then I'm so sorry. How do I see the hands?
No worries, Chair Butler. I can help out. So the first hand that's raised is Nasia Castaneda. I apologize if I am butchering your name.
But do you want to open public comment right now, or do you want to?
I want to open public comment right now. Excuse me. I don't know if I can see the hands. Whatever Terrence, the person who Terrence invited, please speak now.
You should be able to come off mute now and provide public comment.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. Apologies. This platform is new to me. So it took me like 12 minutes to be able to download it and be able to get in. My name is Nasia Castañeda. I'm with the Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon. And if this is a time to share a little bit about what I want to share, I would like to take the minute then. Thank you. I don't know if you can see me. Do you see me? Or you're just hearing me? Okay. Well, again, Nasia Castañeda with the Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon. It's a nonprofit organization that has been around for half a century. This year, we're celebrating our 50th year. And I would like to let you all know that we are continuing the efforts for affirmative immigration legal services this legislative session coming up. And that is basically a fund that would go to Department of Human Services for eligible people that can obtain an immigration status or change to a more permanent immigration status, and that already have a means to do it directly with USCIS. It would be a one-time fee with attorney cost included, or so the USCIS fee, the attorney cost, which is one time, and they would be able to either get a status, obtain a status, or change possibly from a lawful permanent resident to a U.S. citizen. Different statuses that they can get. And again, this would go to the Department of Human Services, all of Oregon. And I can open it if you have any questions, but that's just a brief description.
Well, thank you for being here and look forward to hearing more about that. If you have any information that you want to send or drop in the chat, we welcome it.
Thank you. I will, as soon as I figured out how to do it, if it's other than on the questions, and if not, I can email it.
Absolutely.
Would also like to know if we can get your support and guidance as to how we can, relay more information to you and share with the community.
Absolutely. We'll definitely review it, and then if you're available at our next commission meeting, we'll try to make it an agenda item. And then Terrence just dropped his email for you in the chat.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, I have now found the raised hands. Apologies for that. And I want to give Mickey Durding the floor. Mickey, are you still with us? Able to access?
Hear me okay?
I can now.
Oh,
Fabulous.
there you go. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Mickey Durding, and I am a member of the Oregon Commission on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs, or OCAPIA. I volunteered to be here with you today. I'm here to invite you to join us in establishing a joint subcommittee on economic equity with our sister advocacy group, OCAPIA, Commission for Women Affairs, and on Black Affairs. The goal will be in alignment with our statutory duties. I'm not sure if you also have the statutory duties, but it's basically identifying barriers to the economic development and trade opportunities of women and people of color within this state, and advise state agencies and officials on issues related to those barriers. Assess all programs of state agencies operating for the benefit of equity for women and people of color and residents of this state, and make recommendations to the appropriate agencies for the improvement of those programs. So it's going to be working for the implementation and establishment of economic, social, legal, and political equity for women and people of color, and then continuing the assessment of the issues and needs confronting us. And so what started us on this path was that the spring of 2024, we learned that the state has 3.1 billion contracting budget, and only 10% are going to women and people of color, only 1% to Asian Pacific Islanders, and only 2% to Hispanic businesses. So one of the things that we learned is that there are barriers to acquiring a Certificate Office of Business Inclusion and Diversity, or COVID certificates. So feedback indicates that the process can be invasive, laborious, and cumbersome. And in general, the current application process creates barriers for those that this program was designed to help. So fast forward to today, the governor appointed Director Chiang and Business Oregon staff has given us a presentation on action they are taking to address the issues, including conducting a system-wide audit. And in general, they're modernizing this application process. But what we're realizing is there's more to do. So while that was a good start, we'd like to expand the scope of our work to economic opportunity in the state contracting and procurement. So on this subcommittee, we can work together to address the topic and its impact on all of our shared constituents. We can continue to work on the COVID to mitigate barriers, but expanding it to economic opportunity to see how else we can increase women and people of color's economic equity. So this would be kind of like similar to a structure as our joint subcommittee on domestic violence. And then what I'd like to do is give it back to Director Saunders to get his guidance on what he thinks we should do next, if this is of interest to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Durding. So if it is of interest to OCHA, I would recommend having a vote in the public meeting. You do have quorum. If there's any interest in joining the subcommittees on the economic opportunity or state contracting, procurement, and data disaggregation. We are also planning a joint commission meeting, which is going to be on October 25th, and there's going to be space to talk about joint subcommittees during that meeting as well. So I will turn it over to Chair Butler, and I also see Commissioner Mina's hand up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I think both that those numbers and what Nancy was speaking to earlier is so important to address these long-held inequitable situations. And I love something that seems like it has tangible results that we can monitor and provide that accountability. So we have a subcommittee priorities discussion coming up very shortly. And I would love to vote on then if we want to add this, and hopefully, and I for sure would definitely be willing to be present at those meetings, and of course welcome anyone else who would be. And we can also, just noting Commissioner Mina's question, talk about how those intersections can be addressed and make sure that they are.
Thank you so much, Chair Butler.
Yes, of course. I was thinking, Commissioner Mina, did you have anything else you wanted to add or any other responses from commissioners?
Quería preguntar y clarificar. Suena como que el director Sanders preguntó que si queríamos votar. Y no creo que hemos tenido una discusión adecuada para evaluar el documento que sí se mandó, pero pues mis preguntas cómo el subgrupo, el subcomité va a abarcar y a darle prioridad a grupos marginados dentro de la comunidad BIPOC y de mujeres, específicamente hablando de exclusiones para personas que no son ciudadanas y para personas que no hablan inglés. Entonces, me gustaría tener un poquito más de discusión y entendimiento de cómo esas comunidades más vulnerables que usualmente se quedan por detrás son incluidas en este grupo, y si todavía hay espacio, ¿no?, para poder hacer esa, esa integración de las necesidades de los miembros más vulnerables de nuestra comunidad. Gracias.
Alrighty. Thank you, Commissioner Mina. I will admit my Spanish was a little rusty, but I caught the first half. And appreciate your comments. Alrighty. On that note, was there anything else, Commissioner Durding?
And then I would just request if Director Saunders, if you could please share with them the letters and the video link in case they wanted to learn more about the details. And then there was another request for data disaggregation. Terrence, did you want me to just read that memo on behalf? I thought Commissioner Akajura was going to be here, but do you want me to just go ahead and quickly read that memo since they're voting on subcommittees? Okay.
Absolutely. Commissioner Akaraju is not in attendance as of right now. I can share those memos with the entire commission if adopted as a commission subcommission priority.
Great. And so the next request is if you we would like to also invite you to be part of a joint subcommittee on data disaggregation and data justice. The communities, the people of color communities in Oregon are heterogeneous, representing a wide range of ethnicities, cultures, languages, and lived experiences. However, the lack of disaggregated data for various sub-ethnic categories make it difficult for the state and local government agencies to accurately identify and address the unique needs within our communities. This also leads to disparities in outcomes across multiple intersectionality areas, including health, education, housing, employment, and economic opportunity, environmental well-being, and more. So what we have a memo that we've detailed all the information for the reasons for why this would be a great opportunity for us to join forces. I'm going to skip the second paragraph, but I'm just going to let you know that we're also collaborating with Senator Dumbreau to develop a legislative supporting data justice for marginalized communities across Oregon. We believe that partnering with the Oregon Commission for Hispanic Affairs and Black Affairs, we can amplify our collective impact on advancing data justice throughout the state. So I'll leave it at that, and then if Director Saunders could send you the details, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Well, much appreciation. Thank you for sharing both of those. I find it likely we'll probably have some OCHA involvement on both of them.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
And that leaves our last public comment. I want to give the floor to Juan Pablo Garcia.
Could I just interrupt? This is Commissioner Moran, really quick.
Of
I'm
course.
sorry. Yeah, so I just, regarding the disaggregation of data, this has been looked at. We've had 2 doctors come from OHSU from the primary clinic discussing this and discussing how it affects health outcomes. I'm also on a Oregon Workforce Committee, and we've discussed it there through the Oregon Health Policy Board. I think it'd be really beneficial for OCHA to support this and develop a subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Moran.
Thank you. No, I look forward to joining that subcommittee for sure. All right, and that note, then let's give Pablo Garcia, Juan Pablo, the floor. Juan, are you still with us? Still?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sí, perfecto, gracias. Buenas tardes, honorables miembros de este comité. Mi nombre es Juan Pablo Villalobos García. Me identifico como un hombre miembro de la comunidad Latinx, residente del estado de Oregon y el condado de Washington. Soy un hombre en recuperación sostenida y con experiencia en el sistema de justicia penal. Me dirijo a ustedes en esta ocasión para mostrar mi preocupación ante el poco apoyo estatal y local en aspectos relacionados con nuevos servicios de salud mental culturalmente específicos para la comunidad Latinx, incluyendo la ausencia de planes bien fundamentados en las necesidades de la comunidad Latinx, que hoy presenta una gran incertidumbre y un gran problema hacia todas las familias de origen latino que residen en el estado de Oregon. Quisiera presentar brevemente un escenario. En el año 2020, un censo realizado en el estado de Oregon identificó que el 18% de la población total era de origen hispano. Ahora les pregunto, ¿cuánta de esta población realmente tiene acceso a servicios culturalmente específicos? Les sorprendería si les digo que esa cantidad de personas quizás no pueda acceder por la falta de no tener centros culturalmente específicos, centros de salud o centros comunitarios. Entiendo totalmente las prioridades y tópicos importantes de este comité, pero me gustaría hacer la siguiente reflexión, que nuestra comunidad está sufriendo, nuestras madres, nuestros hijos, nuestros hermanos, producto de la adicción y la salud mental. Les hago un llamado a este comité a poder evaluar sus prioridades y las de la comunidad. Y las políticas de este comité no solo deben quedarse en palabras, también deben ser apoyadas con hechos diplomáticos, económicos, materiales, para a través de una fuerza conjunta, junto al Estado local, lograr el bienestar de nuestra comunidad. Todavía estamos a tiempo de cambiar el rumbo en función de políticas de salud conductual para la comunidad Latinx de una manera exitosa, con derechos fundamentales. El derecho a la vida, el derecho a la defensa de la autodeterminación y la recuperación, la libertad de expresión, la libertad de culto y la libertad de que los individuos utilicen el método de su preferencia para su recuperación y programas estatales limitados. Muchísimas gracias por su tiempo. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Juan. I really appreciate those comments. This commission historically has supported mental health and recovery efforts, and maybe we could set up a time, and I would love to get your email and contact, and we could have a presentation and maybe see how we can best support your efforts.
Can I share a few words? Juan Pablo, gracias por su tiempo y por hacer esto y también por su trabajo que hace con su experiencia allá afuera en la comunidad. Es un tema de suma importancia y creo que se ata a lo que decía la comisión anterior, la comisionada Miki, de la falta de datos que existe y que por ende el resultado de esa falta de datos no hemos podido, las agencias correspondientes no han podido dar esta ayuda que es tan necesaria. Muchas de estas agencias, incluyéndonos nosotros como OCHA y como OACO, no no tenemos mucha información de en dónde podemos empezar a ayudar y a poder hacer que estos mensajes y que estos recursos como el 988 puedan llegar a nuestra comunidad. Los esfuerzos que se han hecho, en mi opinión, han sido en vanos. Y sí, es necesario, y creo que se ata mucho a la conversación anterior, de que, perdón, Fabio, de que la falta de datos y la segregación de información, y en muchas ocasiones esta información no existe, en dónde están los latinos, en dónde están los hispanos, cómo se identifican tipos de trabajos y todo eso. A falta de esa información, no podemos poner una estructura eficiente. Mi pregunta, Juan Pablo, sería: ¿cómo visualiza usted nuestro apoyo hacia estos esfuerzos? ¿Cómo sería ese tipo de apoyo? ¿Algunas ideas que nos puedas compartir? ¿Cuál sería lo ideal y lo que esperas? Y luego, entre comisionados, ver cómo podemos ayudar.
Perfecto, ¿me escuchan nuevamente?
Sí.
Ok, una consideración es que creo que este comité tiene el deber de crear una estructura y acercarse a la comunidad. Creo que ustedes tienen el deber de contactar individualmente a cada organización que provea servicios culturalmente específicos de salud mental o de adicciones. Entiendo su comentario, pero creo que estamos perdiendo vidas humanas día a día de latinos para que podamos contemplar en primera instancia que no es una estructura. Tenemos que salir a ver la realidad que hay en nuestras clínicas, centros de salud, y veo que muchos comisionados están en el área rural. Ok, pueden mirar hacia Besker. El único servicio de tratamiento residencial para latinos tiene 20 camas. No creo que sea una respuesta apropiada decir que necesitamos una estructura y datos cuando tenemos una realidad súper conflictiva afuera. Aprecio mucho sus comentarios, honorable comisionada.
Gracias.
Chair Butler. What is our Chair Butler?
Yes. Sorry, I'm looking up a report from that OCHA did a report on mental health a few years back that is listed on our website that was about this.
Hemos visto 3 comentarios públicos que están buscando apoyo de la comisión. Entonces estaba pensando que a lo mejor sería adecuado revisarlos todos y en la próxima reunión votar para escoger, ¿no? ¿Qué se va a apoyar y en qué capacidad? Creo que el comentario del señor Villalobos nos recuerda que OHA siempre tiene proyectos de ley en donde piden dinero. Y nuestro papel, creo, entendiendo, ¿no? Sería ser esa voz asegurándonos de que fondos adecuados sean dirigidos, ¿no? En este caso, como dice el señor Villalobos, a los servicios de recuperación y ya creo que es muy tarde para meter un proyecto de ley o una propuesta. Sí, a pesar de que teníamos, creo, esto en parte del HB 4052 Work Group, algo relacionado. Definitivamente tenemos data desegregation ahí, pero no sé si se metió en un proyecto de ley. Pero creo que es importante, ¿no? De que no solamente, como dice Juan Pablo, utilicemos la diplomacia a través de influenciar a los legisladores, pero también dónde está el poder económico, cómo podemos ayudar a transferir ese poder económico. Entonces, perdón, en la próxima reunión me encantaría ver si podemos votar. Gracias.
Absolutely. All 4 of the points, both of the joint commissions, the request from the Department of Human Services, and this will all be considered added to our agenda officially next month. I would love to be in contact with all of you who offered public comment. So thank you, truly, truly.
Chair Butler, I do want to just jump in and acknowledge the comment in the chat around the simultaneous interpretation. If commissioners can slow down when speaking to allow for the interpretation, that would be great.
Duly double noted. Alrighty, well, let's move on to our next agenda item, which I guess back to the commissioner reports. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to call on folk. If I could have Commissioner Moran, would you be willing to give us an update?
Sure. And I just wanted to thank Juan Pablo for being here, bringing up this super important topic, as I do work at Best Care, and yes, there are 20 available residential beds. Those are not always, just because the beds are there, it does not mean that they're available. There's a staffing issue. Also, those residential beds are only for men. There's no beds in Oregon that are culturally and linguistically appropriate for Latinos. So that is another issue, an ongoing issue. It is the governor's, one of her top priorities is behavioral health. So I do think that we should strongly consider making this one of our priorities. As far as updates from me, I'm going to briefly talk about the Bracero letter, I think, later in the agenda. So I'll just pass to the next person.
All right, Commissioner Woods has said they have no updates. Commissioner Gonzalez?
Hello. Thank you. Pardon the camera being off. I'm actually in transit and just didn't want to have anybody seeing background moving around. I appreciate the floor and the opportunity to share. Being new to the process, I don't have any formal reports, though I will reflect on today's public forum. I think that having a clear process for ideas to be brought forward and content to review so that we can make decisions would be great. I see some great ideas being brought forward. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. All right, any other commissioners I am missing? Oh, Patricia, Commissioner Martinez, excuse me.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I have no updates right now, given that this is also a new platform for me, but I am, taking my notes and taking into consideration all the thoughts that were shared with us today. Thank you all.
Yeah, so grateful for you being here as well. Let's see. I think that, Commissioner Mina, do you have any official updates for us?
Me encantaría compartir actualizaciones. Primero, bueno, tuvimos un pitch latino muy exitoso en Oregon Central. I think you're on the no. You're on the wrong channel. So, le vamos a dar un minutito a la intérprete para que cambie de canal. Ok. So, primero tuvimos un pitch latino muy exitoso en Oregon Central y creo que 8 negocios fueron participantes. Cada negocio recibió un cheque para apoyarlos. Y una de las cosas que hemos visto es que los fondos de Business Oregon no están accesibles a nuestra comunidad porque no están, los anuncios no se hacen adecuadamente al mismo tiempo en un lenguaje que todos podamos accesar. Y también estamos viendo que nuestros negocios necesitan sus propios espacios de abogacía porque las cámaras de comercio no nos están apoyando. Nos invitan para conocernos, pero no hacen esa abogacía por nuestros negocios. Entonces fue muy bonito tener a latinos de otras partes de Oregon venir a apoyar a los negocios rurales. Entonces, muchísimas gracias por eso. Otra actualización, los fuegos forestales siguen en pie. Oregon Central todavía tiene fuegos, la calidad del aire es muy mala y cuando tuve la oportunidad de estar en la sesión legislativa de hace 2 semanas, vi que el Departamento de Fuegos está pidiendo más recursos. Sin embargo, dentro de los recursos que ellos están pidiendo, no están pensando en interpretación, lo que significa que para la siguiente temporada de fuegos, nuestra comunidad se va a quedar por detrás con respecto a información. Entonces, creo que también esta es una oportunidad para que la Comisión de Asuntos Hispanos esté pendiente de cómo, Oregon Emergency Management o los que sean las personas que piden dinero para atender los fuegos, ah, que también pues sirvan a la comunidad hispanohablante, porque nosotros somos hispanos, estamos aquí para representar a aquellos que no hablan inglés. Entonces, pues, eso es un poquito del update de acá, de lo que he escuchado. Oh, y último, vamos a tener la conferencia de viviendas la próxima semana. Entonces, la senadora Campos, el senador Llama van a estar allí. Yo voy a tener la oportunidad de presentar con Tess Pelosi y vamos a hacer una presentación sobre los escenarios y las barreras que las personas que no son ciudadanas experimentan cuando están pasando por el proceso para poder comprar su vivienda propia. Y esperamos que de allí muchas personas se eduquen y apoyen los proyectos de ley que la senadora Campos nos va a patrocinar en la sesión del 2025. Y eso es todo. Gracias.
Fabulous. And Commissioner, I did a reference to you being present for legislative days, so thank you. And we will have some time to discuss them in a bit. Alrighty. And I also want to thank for all, I think you're on the wrong channel, darling, again. If you have got my survey, just checking in, I'd love to know more about your passions, things that your expertise that would more properly align with subcommittee and other OCHA responsibilities. And thank you for those of you I have had one-on-ones with, and for those of you I will and haven't scheduled one with, I would like to get in the habit of having at least one meeting in between our bi-monthly meetings. So thank you for all the updates. And also I want to thank our next guests for being patient. I know we're looking forward to hearing from them. I want to pass the floor to the Oregon Secretary of State Office Representative, Ben Morris.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Actually, my colleague Jessica is going to kick us off, and then I'll give everyone an update on where we're at with the DMV situation.
Great. Thank you so much, Ben. And thank you so much, Chair, for giving us time on the agenda and for really inviting us into your space. And just really quickly, my name is Jessica Ventura. I'm the Chief of Legislative and Policy Affairs for the Secretary of State's office. And with me is Ben Morris, my colleague and the Secretary's Chief of Staff. And again, we're just very grateful that you have made room in the agenda to really discuss the issues at the DNV. And I want to set the stage first, and then Ben will walk you through the issue and how the Secretary has acted. I want to start by saying that you all are doing important work. I just spent the last 45 minutes listening to all the issues that you're focusing on. And we wanted to make sure to get this information because you are the ones who are connected to the communities. We're here as agency representatives, but we also want to be here in community with you all, and make sure that you are able to get the information that Ben's going to provide to you to the people that actually need to hear it. So just a couple more thoughts. I think our primary concern is to safeguard individuals, and we need your help with that. From a personal perspective, I'm a Latina. I crossed the border with my mom when I was 5. And for those who know our Deputy Secretary, Cheryl Myers, you probably know that she is also deeply involved in our communities, and we are both no strangers to the immigration process. And can and know how unsettling this can be for our respective communities. So for us, this isn't really about the next 2 weeks. It's really about in the next 2 years when one of our family members or one of our friends is going through the immigration process and then realizes, oh crap, I somehow voted and wasn't alerted. So those are the folks that we're thinking about right now. We want to make sure that this issue just doesn't impact anyone who may want to go through the citizenship process in the future. And for us, and most importantly, it's really important for us to build trust because there is fear in our immigrant communities about voting. And our North Star is to make sure that everyone who is eligible feels comfortable registering and turning in that ballot. So with those comments, I want to turn it over to Ben, who will then walk you through the issue and the steps that we are taking to solve this.
Thanks, Jessica, and thank you everyone for giving us some time today for this. It's an incredibly important topic. So just some background on the issue that we're talking about today. I don't know how familiar everyone is, but over the last month and a half or so, we've learned about several errors at the DMV with the automatic voter registration process that have resulted in about 1,500 people being registered to vote who were not, who their eligibility is questionable. So I can walk you through the specific errors that resulted in that and what we're talking about. So first, on September 12th, we learned about a group of 300 people who were registered as a result of a clerical error at the DMV. So, you know, when you go in to get your driver's license or an ID card, you might bring in your phone bill or a passport or something, and then you use that to get signed up. What was happening is there's software at the DMV where when they get your document, they use a drop-down menu to select what type of document it is. And the default option was US passport because that is apparently the most common. So people were accidentally hitting US passport when the document a person was bringing in was actually something else. And that resulted in some of these folks getting put into the automatic voter registration process because the US passport is proof of citizenship and therefore demonstrates your eligibility to vote. So this initial group of 300 people included folks who had foreign passports, and that was just incorrectly coded. No fault of the person coming in, but a clerical error at the DMV. On September 23rd, they kept looking into their database and found an additional 1,200 records that were a result of the same problem with that drop-down menu. Then earlier this week on October 7th, we learned in the after action report they published about this that there were 2 additional errors. One was a system error. It was a software problem that was resulting in false positives, but essentially the same thing. The document they were bringing in was incorrectly coded, and so people were pushed into the voter registration system, even though their eligibility wasn't confirmed. And then the second error was a policy error. The DMV had an incorrect training manual that identified citizens of American Samoa who are US nationals as being citizens who are eligible to vote, when in fact their immigration status, their citizenship status is a little more complicated than that. They are US nationals, but they are under federal law not eligible to vote in federal elections. So we learned about that this Monday. There was an additional round of data sent our way. So all told, about 1,500 people in this universe. A couple of really important things to note. We don't know if these people are citizens or not. This has kind of been reported in a lot of newspapers as it's 1,500 non-citizens, and that is not accurate. We know that the documents they provided don't prove citizenship, but it's entirely possible that many of these people are eligible to vote or became eligible to vote after going to the DMV. So that's just a really important point of clarification. So the Secretary of State's office is taking several steps to address this on the election administration side. So the first thing that we did was we inactivated the voter registration of this group of 1,500 people, and we sent them what we call due process letters. These are communications that were provided in 13 languages that give people information on how to demonstrate that they are eligible. We don't necessarily want to assume, we can't assume their eligibility one way or another. So it's important for us to give them the opportunity to re-register if they are in fact eligible to vote. So that was the first step that we took. Additionally, in this latest group, it was 302 records that came through on October 7th. It is too late to prevent those individuals from receiving ballots. The ballot mailings are already in process. So we've taken an additional step to help county clerks remove those ballots from the vote tallying process if they do come in. It's probably unlikely that we get a large number of return ballots out of those 302, but if we do, they'll be set aside, and that person will be given the opportunity to demonstrate their eligibility before those votes are put into the system. So with those corrective actions, we can say for certain that the error will have no impact on the 2024 election, which is important. And it's very important to share that message with as many people as possible. And additionally, out of this entire universe, we have been looking at people who have a vote history. So not someone who just got signed up and received a ballot and did nothing wrong, but a smaller universe of people who actually turned in a ballot at some point. Initially, we identified 10. We were able to demonstrate that 5 of them were, in fact, citizens when they voted and fully eligible to vote. We have 5 people we're still trying to reach. Our goal with those people is to clarify that either they were eligible or they did not know that they weren't allowed to vote, which is critically important because most likely, if you received a ballot from your government, you would assume you should be turning it in. And so our goal is to demonstrate that those folks didn't know they weren't allowed to vote, and therefore they can avoid any kind of consequences for that. And I think we're going to be able to accomplish that. We are trying our best to get in touch with those people as fast as we can. So moving forward, we're doing a couple of things to try to address the unfortunate fact that this incident has harmed the public's trust in our voter registration system. There's just no way around that. We have to admit that that is the case and move forward from there. So one of the things that our agency will be doing is conducting an audit of the motor voter process, the automatic voter registration system. So that will be done by a third-party firm. We'll look at the DMV's processes, but it will also look at the Secretary of State Elections Division processes, and then produce a report that provides assurances of where things are working. Because the truth is, a lot of the system is working very well, but it will also show us where do we have risk, and where are there places where we can make improvements to the system to prevent something like this from happening again. On the DMV side, they produced a very thorough after-action report that I think, if folks are really interested, is worth looking at, that goes through everything they're doing to their software and their training to make sure that the errors that occurred there don't happen again. And then the next thing we're doing is focusing on community outreach. Like I said before, this is a situation where, government failed people, and it's incumbent on us to fix it and do better. So Cheryl Myers, the Deputy Secretary of State, is taking a lead on this, but what we're doing is we're reaching out to as many groups who have immigrant rights backgrounds, the legal community, the foreign consulates, advocacy groups, churches, community groups, to try and get this information in front of people so that if they're hearing from their community about this problem, they can be communicators about it and have the information they need. Or if they decide, they can proactively communicate within their communities to help try to prevent misinformation, or to get people to contact them so that they can provide services. We are also sending what we're calling a no-fault letter to everyone on the list. Basically, it's a legal document from the Secretary of State that says you didn't do anything wrong. This can be really important. Like Jessica said, if someone receive this letter and then subsequently goes through the naturalization immigration process, if they're asked as a part of that, have you ever been registered to vote? They need to understand how to answer that question. The answer to that question would be no, I've never registered to vote. there was a mistake, and I have documented proof that it wasn't my fault. It was a system error. So that's something that we've mailed this to every single person. We're also trying to follow up in a number of different ways to make sure that folks understand what the letter is and what they can do with it in the future. And we'll be keeping that on file in the elections division permanently, so that in the future, if anyone needs to access it, they can. And then also, like I said, just trying our best to use community members who are better messengers than us to try to get some of this information out. If I was a person who was incorrectly registered, I would not necessarily want to talk to the Secretary of State Elections Division or the Attorney General's office. I would want to go to a more trusted messenger. So every opportunity we have to get this information to people who are those trusted messengers is incredibly valuable. And the last thing I'll say is we are going to be working with an organization called the Equity Corps of Oregon to provide free legal consultation to anyone who was impacted by this situation. While most folks probably won't actually need any legal assistance, we want to make sure people have the opportunity to seek it if they would even just like assurances about what their standing is. So that's something we're trying to make available through the Equity Corps of Oregon. All of this information is put together in one place on our website. I'm going to put the link in right now. And then all of the really pertinent information for the individuals who are impacted are in the letters that we've been sending to people, which you can also find here. They're both linked to each other, but these resources are a great starting point for understanding the issue and communicating with it with people about what's going on. So sorry, that was a lot of information really quickly, but happy to take any questions folks have.
Thank you. That was so informative. I honestly, of course, have been watching the news and worry about anything that puts our election system into question. Oregon was one of the first states to have mail-in voting, which has us have one of the highest voter turnouts in the country. And of course, don't want to see anything that affects that or immigrant and people in my community. So good to know about the no fault letters and that there's a path if anyone were to experience any negative consequences for that to be expunged or whatever the case may be. Did you have any, I want to first open the floor for commissioners. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they would like to make?
Chair Butler, may I?
Yes.
Jessica, bienvenida. Gracias por estar aquí. Oh, channel. Oh, am I in the English one? Where am I at? Oh, sorry. I'm getting confused. I'm going to stick to English. So, Jessica, welcome. It's so good to see you here. And when you all presented to the legislature, I saw dominant culture faces in that panel, and not necessarily, our faces reflected. So thank you for being here. I am wondering regarding accountability. We know that this mistake is gonna carry with people through their whole path of citizenship, whether some, attorney may advise us that it's not going to be a big deal. Depending on what administration, it will have different impacts. And I think that it's important that we consult, right, with different experts, especially at the national level, not just here locally. And my question is there a process of accountability? I think that this could have been prevented with appropriate and culturally relevant leadership, training, and processes. And that cannot be something that is solved from the bottom up. That needs to be solved from the top down. So we'd love to know what processes are there in place so that leadership reflects the communities that the DMV is better trying to serve. Also, I would love to hear a little bit more about what will be the support that ECHO will provide folks, and how will that work in the long term? If you are reaching out to other partners outside of ECHO, we have a lot of community members here in the chat, including our compañera Delfina from HB 52, que ha estado trabajando, that she's been working on this for a long time. So I also share, Butler, if it's okay, that participants put their questions in the chat so that this becomes a community space so that we can let our concerns and questions be out in the open. And thank you for being here.
Of course.
Thank you. I'm happy to respond. So I think the first question is really, really important, right? Like, what are the accountability measures and what's being done at the DMV to make sure that the response is culturally specific and that there is an understanding of that this is not just a problem with a box not being checked on a drop-down menu. This is bigger than that, right? And so I can't speak, for the DMV entire. Well, I guess I'm kind of going to speak for the DMV. Why not? They are hiring a Oregon motor voter oversight position. And if you're hearing that and thinking, why didn't that exist before? That is a great question. It should have. And that is something that we are happy to see. I think our input to them on how that process goes will be right in line with what Joanne just said. I think we'll be telling them that we had an example, particularly with the American Samoan community, where it was a policy mistake, where they did not understand the group of people that were constituents that were being affected by the policy decisions they were made. If they had an American Samoan person involved in that process, I can't imagine that policy would actually be written down in their training manual. It would have been caught. It would have been corrected at some point. So that's exactly the feedback that we intend to provide to them. This is also something that we can incorporate into the audit process. Auditors have criteria for this kind of thing, and it's part of their risk assessment. If you're not speaking to the people who are using your systems, then you're not designing your systems correctly. That's a part of the process we can look at through that audit as well. I'm not as familiar with ECHO, the organization we're working with. Our attorney and the Department of Justice are working with them on the legal side of things. But in terms of long-term legal support, I think we can assure people that we will always be available to provide that documentation and evidence that nobody that did anything wrong here. The Secretary of State's office isn't going anywhere, even if people change over time, but this will live among the permanent staff in our elections division. So even 20 years from now, if someone needs to access that letter and have someone testify in a hearing, that can happen. So hopefully that provides some assurance on that front.
No. Well, thank you. And then I guess a question maybe came up in the chat is who is hiring the outside third-party auditors? Is it y'all or is it someone through the state?
It's going to be the Department of Administrative Services. Yeah, so it is a third party that will run the entire process.
Awesome. Yeah, because we've also just been having a lot of public comments about the readability and accessibility of their DMV tests. So we've actually been trying to get them here at a meeting, hopefully again here in December. Can we invite? Yeah, we absolutely can. So we look forward to having conversation with them. And I was going to ask you a question for me, which would be, what does that rebuilding of the trust process looks like? And are you looking for partners in collaboration? I think there would be interest here in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've been working on various campaigns around trust in the elections process for really, for the last 4 years. And I think in my experience, the best thing that we can do is be having proactive conversations with people year round so that when a crisis comes up, it's not the first time someone thinks about voter registration or elections, but they've actually had a conversation with somebody and they already feel like Oregon has a good voting system. Because What's so unfortunate about this is we really do have one of the most accessible and accurate election systems in the entire country. Just for some perspective, the number of people impacted by this problem represent less than 1% of just the people who are registered by the DMV. And it's a tiny fraction of the overall voter registration population. And the bulk of this system is working really, really well. So I would love anyone who's interested who would like to get involved. We have a program. It's kind of a boring name. It's just our civic engagement program. But we have resources on voter registration, voter turnout, and also combating mis and disinformation that are available to community partners who would like to do this kind of work. They are translated into the 5 most commonly spoken languages in the state of Oregon. We also have the voters pamphlet, which includes a lot of this information and is a great tool for reaching out to communities. And it is translated into I believe it's the top 13 languages spoken in every single county. So it's an even broader list. It's available online. In fact, I can put the link into that in the chat here in a second, so folks know where to access that. But we have a lot of resources. We'd love to partner with anyone who's interested.
Amazing. I definitely will be reaching out after this because I honestly even feel better just hearing all these further bits of details that provide more context to the situation. So and again, great to know that people, no matter the amount of time, we would be able to make sure they're not experiencing the negative consequences of a clerical error. All right, I want to open the floor. Any other commissioners? Does anyone else have any questions for either Jessica or Ben?
Chair Butler, there is a Q&A comment from a community member.
Thank you. I am not seeing it. I apologize. If you have a question, can you please raise it now?
So I can read the comments. So this comment came from a community member. I feel the trust from the community with DMV and Department of State has been compromised. And that's a comment, not necessarily a question.
And it's definitely the right comment. I mean, this is absolutely a breach of trust, and we have to work to rebuild that. And I just want to make it really clear that at the Secretary of State's office, we understand that we're going to push DMV and any other state agencies we interact with to have that same frame of reference going forward.
All right, thank you for that. I look forward to helping rebuild. Any other comments from the public or from commissioners before we? Any other questions about this?
Hi, Commissioner Nancy Ayala. I would just like to wonder more about the one of our priorities is language accessibility, and I know you shared a few letters and just focusing on those Spanish speakers that could have been affected through these mistakes. Has there been a response or maybe an outreach to media or other community organizations to clarify this information and just to share what has happened? I mean, the lack of media in Oregon in Spanish, we don't. If you're not bilingual, you don't get this information, right? Until months after, if your daughter or anybody else or your neighbor tells you or brings it up to the conversation. So what it is there anything on the website that talks about this in Spanish and beyond like a Google Translator, an official letter that could be public in Spanish? I mean, that's something where we can start sharing as commission and with our different hats throughout the community. And I'm just wondering because we can't help with the translations or things like that, right? Like our budget's so limited to these kind of things. So how else can we support to spread the word and find, redirect people to you or different resources and just clarify the situation?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we have been able to translate the letters that are going out to people into Spanish and additional languages. OregonVotes.gov, the link I put above, OregonVotes.gov/DMV, also has a human done translation into Spanish. It's because it's the most commonly spoken language beside English. We prioritized getting it onto the website. And in addition to that, if folks call the elections division, we have translation services available, as well as some Spanish-speaking folks who actually work in our agency, and then a translation vendor that we can provide, so folks can have those conversations over the phone as well. So between OregonVotes.gov/DMV and the letters, which are also on the website there, I think that's the best place to start in terms of sending out information to groups.
All right, fabulous. Well, I want to thank you for being here. I also maybe want to invite you to come back in our meeting in February once we, hopefully see some movement on that rebuilding of trust. And again, hopefully some people, myself and anyone else in the commission who wants to get involved, we can talk about having that, as civic engagement is a huge priority for us.
Chair Butler, I have one very last important question. Is it okay?
What's the, is there any?
The question is, out of the 10 people that voted, you said, Ben, 5 have been clear as citizens, and the other 5 are still being contacted. If any of those folks are found to have erroneously or voted while not being citizens, is the Secretary of State going to refer them to Oregon DOJ as election offenders? Or how are you going to deal with those folks? Will they be election victims, since it is a institutional mistake that put them into this place? Because that makes a big difference on whether they're offenders or not.
Yeah, great question. So our goal is to not have anyone get referred to the DOJ. So when folks contact us, what we're trying to learn is, did your vote come as a result of you getting a ballot from your government telling you to vote? And there's a concept in criminal justice called of a criminal mind. It's a legal term, but it basically means, did you think you were doing the right thing, or did you know you were doing the wrong thing? And our positions, most likely in this case, people thought they were doing the right thing because their government told them, here is a ballot, you should be voting. So we have to talk to folks. We have to find out what's going on. This is all still in process. I don't know exactly where it will head with everybody. But I think that's a really important piece of the conversation, is what was the intent, and understanding that they were responding to a mailing from their government that literally says you should turn in your ballot.
Well, thank you for reiterating that again, so important, and I look forward to finding out what those last 5 had as their eligibility. But with that, we must move on, and I do want to, of course, you can always, we hope to have contact with us after. Thank you both for being here. Alrighty, well, it's time for some new business. I want to turn the floor over to Commissioner Moran to talk about the Braceros letter for a national holiday.
Yeah, thank you. So most of you know that we had the Bracero Day event at the Oregon Historical Society, and it was a huge success, honoring the Braceros that worked so hard and were never recognized. After that event, we wanted to continue with the progress and the recognition of these people. Nina Gallo and I, Nina is the college student who originally wrote the letter to me while I was chair, came up and together wrote a letter to Congresswoman Salinas, as she was there and a big supporter of this event. I hope all of you read the letter. I did get Commissioner Mina's comments, and that will be updated, that it will say, if all voted on, that that this letter is written also in support of OCHA, and will include all of your names onto this letter. What this letter is asking to help create and make Bracero Day not only a holiday in Oregon, but a national holiday, because the Braceros worked all over the country, not just in Oregon. With that, like I said, I did, and I will update to include OCHA into the letter with all of our names. I'm wondering if there's any other updates or comments and discussion about this letter, if you're in support, or if it needs to be changed, or anything else before we could vote on it and send it out.
Hello, hello. This is Commissioner Gonzalez. I just wanted to take the opportunity to express my gratitude to you and to everyone involved in this letter, in the event. And I wanted to express my full support for this concept of nationalization. I think this is a fantastic step towards gratitude in an important chapter of this country's history. And it really emphasizes the contribution that our immigrant history and our ancestors have made. So thank you so much. I'm so happy about this step that's being taken.
Thank you for that. And it really empowers us to rewrite our history and to get our history into the textbooks and into schools, because it's missed and it's not there. And so this is what we saw was a good first step. I see Commissioner Mina says, will OCHA send it to all the DC delegation or just Salinas? The letter is written just to Congresswoman Salinas.
Yes. Was there a specific reason? Has she shown interest to be a champion? That's kind of just wondering.
Yeah, sure. So she was at the beginning. She used to be a representative on OCHA at the beginning of this. And so, yes, she was at the event. She has expressed interest. And having Nina and I both met her, we think it's a great connection to have her as a champion.
Well, with that, I want to open the floor. Is there any more comments before we vote on adopting this letter? Any more discussion? Alrighty, well, I'm very excited to ask for a motion to adopt this letter. Do I have a second?
I second Commissioner Gonzalez.
Any opposed? Any more discussion? All right, it's officially adopted. And I look forward to seeing the updated letter.
Yep. Thank you all. I will send you the updated letter, and we will get that out to Congresswoman Salinas, and I will let you know if we hear a reply and what the next steps are. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. This is Director Saunders. I do want to jump in with next steps. Once the letter has been revised, please send it over to me and I'll make sure that it's on OCHA's letterhead and things of that nature, and we can send it off on OCHA's behalf.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Fabulous. Truly, what a great example of things that can get done here. I want to pass the floor or share the floor with Commissioner Alaya, talking about this fabulous month we've just had, Hispanic Heritage Month, which is ending in just a few short days, but we happen to be celebrating Hispanic Heritage all year long. So.
Thank you, Chair Butler. I will try to be fast with this topic because I only saw that I was assigned 5 minutes to talk about Hispanic Heritage Month. However, there are a few other topics that I would like to throw along. But starting with that, it is that I will hate to miss the opportunity to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month in a more structured way next year to, not let what happened this year because our inability to coordinate and plan for this month. And I know that there was an event in a symbolic and with the Chamber of Commerce of Portland. However, I think we are capable to have something of our own and something a little bit more robust, and also have the opportunity to create fundraising for OCHA specifically, since budget is a struggle. I can see an opportunity to come together with the community, with the state, with the capital, and us as an agency to create an opportunity for fundraising and engage with the community. So I do seek better planning, and I would love to support on that as well. So if any commissioner wants to join and have a conversation, we do have some months ahead of us to prepare for that and coordinate. And, our efforts can go beyond social media and everything. We do, things can be done offline as well and complemented with online efforts. So with that being said, I want to move it, if it's okay. I want to share a few other topics that are on my plate. The website of OCHA being available in Spanish and not just a Google Translator, which is challenging to find. But this was something that I brought up a year ago when I got added to the commission. I think it is important because of language barrier, of course, language accessibility, but also civic engagement, which is one of our topics and one of our priorities, as these, especially during elections, is important. And I am wondering why can our website be completely in Spanish, and also sharing information like the DMP's error or voting details that we can be sharing and being that serving as a platform to share that. I think having this in Spanish is quite important and relevant. So anything that we can do to work on that direction, like I said, I brought this up at the beginning of my term here, and I will still like to seek support on that. Ideas, anything is welcome. Moving from that, I am also concerned of this is probably more of our internal problems as a commission, and just having all of us collectively work together towards our priorities, towards having just a better structure as a commission. I think that we can have some self-assessment, kind of what we are all super busy with our work, with our jobs and with everything around us. So, but also, being responsible and being honest with if this is something that we can deal with and show up to the meetings every 2 months and, do our check-ins and responding to emails. How can we collectively do something like this, get together, get to know each other in person? There's a lot of us that haven't met in person yet. And I think that is quite important for personal relationships and also reflecting our job as commissioners. I also do think that a lot of the topics that I'm bringing up they are not as relevant as the topics that we got from our public earlier. However, these structure and having a better relationship or a better workflow between commissioners can definitely reflect in the outside, and we can probably tackle other issues like mental health and focusing on our priorities for 2025 legislation. So just very quick, I know I had 5 minutes, but those are the main things that I wanted to bring up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Your passion and your dedication since starting has been felt. So happy to have you in the executive team. I definitely looking forward to next year having a more prominent OCHA presence at some sort of Hispanic celebration. I do want to give some mention to OACO had 4 or 5 dates that kept moving around from the governor's office. And I also do think whatever we do in the future, we should partner with someone so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel and join forces rather than divvy up attention. But I also really thank you for doing that video project. There's still a few days in. I don't know if Saba, if you're still accepting any from any commissioners that haven't done in theirs yet. There could still be time. There's still technically 5 days. And I do want to I'm gonna talk about it a little bit, but I want to make sure that we address intercommissioner workings and making sure that we are working in our most aptitudes and using all of our expertise to the most degree that we can. I think, and the website, yes, let's definitely have. When we talk with our one-on-one, I want to talk about how we can make that happen before the end of your term.
Thank you. And for Hispanic Heritage Month 2025, I have a couple of ideas as well. So like I said, please let's get together if you have any other ideas that we can complement. And yeah, definitely other organizations, relying on other organizations can definitely be beneficial instead of coming up with our own planning because it has been challenging. So
yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if you can get your videos in, they're very short, just a little Hispanic Heritage Month, 30, 45 seconds. So I loved, Melina, what your post was really beautiful. So anything like that would be helpful. But it has to be end of day, Saba says. I want to be sure to make time. We have something from our director about environmental justice, the Environmental Justice Council vote. I'd like to turn over the floor to our ED.
Absolutely. So for the environmental justice vote, we did have one commissioner previously appointed. That commissioner is no longer here. That term has ended, which was Commissioner Morales. So I do want to bring that up for the commission for a vote. There is one dedicated seat, and just a little bit about the EJC, which is the Environmental Justice Council. It was established within the Office of the Governor as a 13-member statewide council responsible to advise the governor and state natural resource agencies on environmental justice issues. The statute directs the council with support from the Department of Environmental Quality, Oregon Health Authority, to develop an environmental justice mapping tool. The purpose of the mapping tool is to provide geospatial information about environmental justice impacts and to develop guidance for state agencies when adopting rules and policies. So we'd love if there's any interest from commissioners to hold that vote if Chair Butler is interested. I do see a hand up. Chair Butler, I did see your hand up, so I wanted to.
Oh, my physical hand, right?
Yeah.
Getting all my Zoom. I mean, environmental stuff is my jam. I would definitely love to sit on that if we all, as a commission, agree that we'd like to have a presence. Should we? Can I motion to accept a seat on the Environmental Justice Council?
Well, first, are there any other commissioners that are interested, and then move to the vote if nobody else is interested?
Terrence, I don't think you mentioned time commitment and goals, just so that other folks can think about what it will take.
Absolutely. So I don't have a time commitment for the EJC. Director Beeler, do you have a time commitment estimate for the EJC? Environmental Justice Council is not something that I collaborate with on a regular basis through OACO's work.
I do not have a time. I would say roughly no more than about 2 or 3 hours a month, but don't quote me on that. I can get that information for you all and bring it back. That is our environmental advisor who manages that body of work, and so I'd have to reach out to them.
And the goals, do we know the goals?
Absolutely. So I did read that to develop an environmental justice mapping tool. That's what they're actively working on right now.
Thank you, Dr. Kyle. I mean, my opinion is that I think we should have some involvement and some presence. And I would be willing to take that on, especially if it's only 2 or 3 hours, even more, 5, 6. I think that's reasonable. All right, and I'd like to officially put forward a motion. Do I have, or to accept this role or seat on the EJC? Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Moran. Any discussion?
If I can add a parenthesis to this, and again, going back to our commissioner structure and pushing collaboration or participation, what is the possibility to assign commissioners to a committee? And am I jumping in the conversation?
Just a little bit. I'm gonna talk about the subcommittees and that's the very last of their new business. But
Thank you. I'll send my comments. Thank you.
trust. I will. Thank you though. I appreciate it. Alrighty, well, I guess with that, it passes and we accept. And Terrence, and I didn't catch the name of the other representative. But yes, please shoot me that information and if there's a regular meeting time.
Will do. I'll follow up with next steps.
Thank you, thank you. Alrighty, trucking right along. I want to turn over the floor to our health equity team with any updates or reports.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Our team just launched, or we are launching our focus groups for our three big buckets of work, one being community justice, one being healthcare, and then one is education. I just kicked off our healthcare one bright and early, 8 a.m. on Monday morning, and it went really, really well. And then next week, we're having our first kickoff meetings for our education and our community justice subcommittees. So over the next like 6-ish weeks, they'll be happening. And then once those complete after like 5 or 6 meetings, I'll be able to report back on how all of those went and some of the data that we were able to collect through those focus groups. And I'm really, really excited because we were able to recruit a really wide, vast range of folks from like all different types of lived experiences and backgrounds and educational backgrounds. And so I'm really, really excited about them. And I'm excited to share with you all the outcomes of the focus groups and just see how it lands with folks. That's all from me.
Have there been any, because I know it was kind of community engagement, learning about what sort of solutions are coming from them. Anything exciting in particular?
Not yet. Our kickoff meeting was Monday morning and for healthcare specifically, but our upcoming meeting in a couple of weeks is around culturally and linguistically appropriate healthcare services. And so I'll be able to share more about that during our next meeting, but I'm really excited to hear what folks think about that. I think there's a lot of folks in the room that have had like previous experiences like that weren't super positive in the healthcare space. And so their perspectives are going to be really important to the conversation. And so I'm really trying to like take a step back as much as possible and just kind of facilitate the conversation amongst like the 15 or so folks that I have in the room. And so I'm really excited to hear what folks say and then hopefully be able to influence the legislature in some capacity once all of these focus groups are over.
I just want to flag Joanna's or Commissioner Mina's question. How are the trackers of the recommendation connecting to these focus groups?
Yeah, so we are focusing on several different recommendations for each focus group. So we've pulled certain recommendations off the tracker to specifically address during the focus groups.
So cool. All right. I know, I think we talked about last time. Are there still regular meetings happening or are they, I know they were Tuesday afternoons for a minute and that.
Yeah, we've put those on pause while our team like solely focuses on focus groups.
Is there any capacity for having that available for all 4 of the commissions or? Because I just feel like as we're gearing up into the long session, is any going to be applicable to that time?
Like the equity action groups
Yeah,
meetings for.
we used to meet and we would talk about HB 4052 and recommendations, things that are moving so that we could stay informed to, bring back to our commissions and, our communities.
Yeah, I'd be open to it. I'm more than happy to chat with my team offline about it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, maybe I'll just reach out in a couple weeks and see if there's possibility.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing and your hard work. And on that note, I think it is my turn. And it's an important thing, probably one of the more important things to me that I wanted to communicate with today, which is about our subcommittees and our availability in participating in those. We've been having some discussions in the executive meetings to talk about how to structure them in a way that we'd be able to catch a lot of people. But also make sure we're not like trying to cram too much into one time. And so my idea was to suggest that we have at least 2 standing meetings in between in that 8 weeks between the bi-monthly meetings. And if you could commit to one of them, or make sure you catch one of them, we're trying not to put them at the same time, but they would have the ability. And yeah, so I've sent out a survey too to kind of learn more about people's passions, expertise, things that would relate. I would love to avoid assigning the subcommittees, but I do think it is something we're going to talk about in the joint meeting in a couple weeks, but just in terms of responsibilities as a commissioner. And it was also maybe a question for Terrence as I off this meeting, but I was going through the bylaws, and I think it is paramount that we have some involvement in those. So I guess that probably brings us to, does anyone have any questions, quandaries about the subcommittees in general before we dive into the specifics?
This is Terrence. I just have one question for clarity. So you looked at the bylaws, and what was the other piece of that comment?
Oh, there's a whole thing about standing committees here. And I was just wondering if is that related to this?
Absolutely. So I can provide a little bit of clarity around the priorities that are listed in OCHA's bylaws, which again are able to be amended at any point in time, which I would actually encourage and recommend doing so to match the current priorities of the commission. Those subcommittees were created through past leadership on OCHA around their current priorities at the time. So priorities are ever evolving, so I would highly recommend to, at some point in the not too distant future, to revise bylaws as needed to fit the current commission and structure.
Definitely. Yeah, because right now they're executive, program, and development, which I guess wasn't be too far off, because I think my next one now talking more about the specifics, unless there's any more comments about the subcommittees. Discussion. Which is just to, maybe we could have them be, I don't want to say broader, but they are we would put the decentralization of representation under it'd be a safety justice subcommittee. And that would be one of the things. So that way, if you were not maybe specifically motivated or interested in some of these legislative priorities that we made, that I love how specific they are, but we also could maybe have some more room, especially now with this DMV thing, is that we have a civic engagement subcommittee. So I guess I'd love to hear thoughts on the organization of the subcommittees and how I can best organize it in a way that, will have people showing up for at least one.
Absolutely. And I see Commissioner Moran's hand up, so feel free to jump in.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, where are you at, I guess, with the subcommittee development so far? And are there 3 or are there 4? And what are their titles right now, I guess?
That's a great question. So there are 3 official runs. So there's IT and lending, which I kind of put parentheses housing. There's the decentralization of representation, which that is just basically very quick gist of that, is that there's a hotline for people to call about not just immigration services, but other legal representations. And it's been in a way that people feel like it's the organizations that are getting all the business and all of the attention are not adequate for the communities they're trying to represent. So that's that one. And
Chair Butler, I think that's not necessarily the way that we're seeing the problem. What we're seeing is that universal representation, or ECHO, which is the program that Ben just talked to us about. It's a statewide program. It's our tax dollars, but we have had community members that have participated in public meetings here and have shared that the system, the way it's structured, is not working best for the community. And that's where the desire to bring forth recommendations to improve the quality of the service that people receive. It's not that these community partners are not serving our community. They're doing valuable work. But the way it's structured, it's a clearing system that is the ECHO program. And, there is this Portland Center issue that all folks in rural Oregon know about. And so the idea is that we advocate for more transparency and more oversight of the Oregon State Bar so that it can be decentralized, because the Oregon State Bar is across the whole state. But ECHO is centralized. And so that is where folks in rural Oregon fall through the cracks. But yeah, everybody's providing a service that is very needed. And I think that is important to continue to support it and also offer that insight.
Right?
Gracias.
Yeah. That's why I was just giving a broad brush, but I would love if people are interested in that one to be able to dive more into it with you. And then our third one, I'm sorry. And yes, our third legislative priority, so IT and lending. Oh, of course, now it's escaping me. Oh, language access in public meetings. So those are our three official ones. I put that one under the subcategory of civic engagement. I also do feel like today we've even heard more opportunities for, I know there's a domestic violence joint subcommittee. There's lots of ways to get involved. Again, I think I'm very curious on what people would be most interested in and hopefully most engaged in. Does that help, Commissioner Moran?
Sorry, I'm trying to come off mute. So yeah, so I was just kind of taking notes because Commissioner Mina, I think what you're describing is a lot, right? And I think a lot can be done and it's a big problem. And I'm not sure in my mind if it needs to be more focused in one area or if we keep it broad so that in the committee they could focus it. I'm just throwing this out there. And then also with the subcommittees, the domestic violence, and then the one that was offered today was the data disaggregation. So that's two more. So total of 5 opportunities, but I mean, even though we haven't agreed to do the data disaggregation one.
Or the economic, I think the one that was most presented was the economic council too. And then we also got
so that's a net. So there's 3 possible 3 subcommittees, the economic equity.
Yeah. So I think my question here, and I would love if anyone else's feedback, is would you rather see these subcommittees stay like in alignment with our 7 priorities or fit one of these 7 priorities? Or do we like right now that they're very specific to specific issues?
I mean, for me personally, I've been on the domestic violence subcommittee, and I would not like that to fall into a different committee. I think it's great working as a joint commission with the other commissions. I feel like there's movement and a lot of support. And so for the domestic violence one, I definitely do not recommend that one going under to another one of our priorities specifically.
Let me clarify. I think that would not be, because based on our conversation again, I think that would, I'm just want to try to find everyone a role. That's really what I'm looking for right now. Where is our role? And honestly, for me, it's about making sure that we are working on those 7 priorities in some form or capacity. I think if I'm not hearing anyone else, I think the way that I'm going to structure them is that this is a meeting. We're going to be just addressing these 2 or 3 priorities. I know you'd mentioned in our executive meeting, like, hey, some of these could use more than 20 minutes, and that's absolutely true. So I think there would be probably even more meetings that would spawn from those subcommittee meetings. Hey, we want to specifically talk with this. I also want to mention about the subcommittees that they just released new public meeting laws on October 1st, and that now we have to abide by those even in these smaller groups, regardless of quorum. purely based on deliberation and discussion about different things that we're going to do as an official organization. I guess there's Terrence, you or Executive Director Saunders, do you have anything else you'd like to add on that note?
Yes, in regards to subcommittees, I would actually recommend having either some type of discussion on what interest commissioners currently have around those priority areas to join a subcommittee in this meeting and not necessarily take that offline. That would be my recommendation, so we can start the planning and things of that nature and have a good grasp on who's going to be participating on which subcommittee. So that would be my recommendation.
So actually, yeah, I've been a little bit proactive on that. I've had 4 or 5 conversations now with different commissioners who've already picked these different subcommittees. So there are 2 more. I don't want to put Commissioner Gonzalez on the spot. And Commissioner Martinez, we have a meeting scheduled, but I want to maybe push a little bit on, is there any of these that we've been speaking on right now that have interest for you?
Yes, I mean, I wish I could do it all. You know, but I have to think about my time, and there's so many changes on my as a mental health practitioner in the community and also as a private practice, and then I also do a lot of crisis response, so my availability varies. I did also just sign up to be in one of the focus groups for the health equity for education. So that's something I'm going to be engaging in. I did look at this comment by Commissioner Mina about a community member who did ask us and advocate for us to bring their issues into a much broader topic on mental health. So that's something definitely I'm interested. I'm going to think a little bit more and see and look at my capacity and my availability, and then look forward to discussing that with you once I narrow that down.
Absolutely. And I do want to clarify right now, we're just doing interest because once I know interest, then I can work with availability. Then I have to be able to give something to anchor us in. But no matter what, I'm inviting everyone to participate at least one subcommittee meeting and inviting you to have the one-on-one with me, knowing that we have lives and everything outside of this. So just want to make sure I give everyone the opportunity to.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So mental health might be the perfect fit for you. Commissioner Gonzalez, is there any of that we've been discussing of these subcommittees that have particular interest or passion for you?
Sure. Sort of landing in from the general to specific. I'm really big on economic development, and those sorts of the activities are of top of mind for me. So, I really appreciate the event that was plugged earlier about that's happening in Oregon about the entrepreneurs and the as far as committees go, the I-10 work that's happening is the one that sort of links up in my mind with economic development, or at least protections, and giving people economic security is really where it is there. But I think that's where my natural right now falls, but I wanted to respond to your email, and once we had a discussion, I think would make more sense. That's where my mind is now.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate you both. Just even knowing kind of where your head's at is just helpful for me, and I want everyone to feel at least some something about the priority that they're involved on. And I do think there's going to be overlap. I want to make sure I walk away with my ear that there's lots of structure and that these things have some longevity. We did have some movement last year on having some successful subcommittees, and I would love to see that brought back. So yeah, I think that then I probably want to finish this up with, I did put out 5 different times. I just want to make sure that is for us to choose from, that we could possibly have these meetings. I do want to make sure that the staff is able to be there, that we have interpreters that are able to be there. So again, it'll probably just be 2 out of those 5 happening in that 8-week period. I'm gonna try to make it so it's regular, so it's every 3rd Monday or every something like that. And that would be easy to remember, and would probably take an hour to an hour and a half. Great. I think on subcommittees, again, I know it's really how we get stuff done, so I appreciate you all making the time and energy. So I do want to acknowledge it is 2:55. Our our next topics, the agenda items are old business, which this is strategic planning. I think this last discussion we just had kind of fits into that, but really being able to evaluate the 7 priorities that we're obligated to fulfill and what our community is bringing to us. So thank you everyone who brought public testimony and also mentioned other times that we've had it, that we can use that to push ourselves along in the right direction. I don't have any more strategic planning notes as this moment, so I want to turn over the chair to Director Saunders about the joint meeting.
Absolutely, and I'm also going to forward it to Saba. Ms. Celine will be able to provide the Joint Commission update.
Thank you, Director Saunders. I appreciate everyone's patience for my brevity here. I do need to hop off at 3, but just wanted to confirm that I believe we mentioned it at the last OCHA meeting as well. The Joint Commissions meeting happens between the 4 sister commissions, Commission on Hispanic Affairs, as well as Commission on Black Affairs, Commission for Women, and Commission on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs, who you heard from earlier today. And the purpose of that meeting, I want to read it out to you, so I apologize for switching screens here. To consider and act upon issues of mutual importance to the mission and statutory duties of the commissions. So that is all 4 commissions. I know many of you have RSVP'd. That is on Friday, October 25th. From 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Salem at the Labor and Industries building. And I've shared all of that information with you in email and calendar as well. So if you have not RSVP'd, please do that. I'm taking many things into consideration, including, lunch and agenda and whatnot. But the agenda does consist of various conversations with chair leadership, as well as we'll have opportunity to hear from a guest speaker who we actually just locked in earlier this week, who is Senate President Rob Wagner, which I'm really excited for you all to meet him. And then there will be robust conversation about duties and commitment and everything else that comes with being a commissioner. More than happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Well,
This is Terrence.
Oh, sorry.
I do have just one comment that I want to drop in, and for any commissioner that is wanting to request reimbursement, please make sure that you send that request over to Chair Butler, myself, as well as Ava, and we will try to process those on an individual basis, especially prioritizing any need for overnight stays for any of the events coming up. We will need to find agency funds for that, which I'll go into a little bit more in the executive director's report shortly after this.
Thank you. One last comment on that. For folks who are in Central Oregon and will be spending the night either for the joint meeting the day before or the meeting with the governor next week, please do let us know at your earliest convenience, just because we want to make sure that it is taken care of. Any other questions?
I was going to say it was really impactful last year. So if you have the opportunity, I really strongly encourage you to go, and we'll be repping hard for OCHA there. So thank you, Saba, for all your hard work.
Thank you. It really is an incredible opportunity to connect with all 4 sister commissions and meet people in person. And of course, it is more efficient, in my opinion, to get work done like that all in one room. So I look forward to seeing you all there.
All right. Well, thank you. And I do want to note again, Commissioner Mina said looks like we're about 15 minutes over time. I will keep my portion short and sweet. Do I need a motion to continue the meeting? Last time I think we just went over, but
yes.
All right. I'm going to motion to continue the meeting so we can get in the executive report and those last important details. Do I have a second? Also acknowledging if you have to leave, you have to leave. It will be public record.
I second.
Thank you. And we will keep good notes and make sure everyone is able to see what we discussed.
You'll need a vote before you proceed.
We have consensus, and
We
so
have
long,
consensus, yes.
so long we have the
Okay.
quorum. Nancy, Christina are still here. Melina's here. Osvaldo?
You
So,
still
we
do
don't
have
vote, because I don't think we
you
do.
still do have quorum, but the boxes are moving rapidly. So 1, 2, 3, 5. You still have 6 on the call right now, so you do have quorum.
I will need to head out and I apologize. I wanted to stick a little bit longer, but I do have the event today
Yeah.
happening and I have to go set up. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will catch up with the minutes and the notes afterwards. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Ciao.
Fabulous. All right, well, I want to turn it over to Dr. Allen, anyone who was there for legislative days.
Yeah, and I can be speedy on this. So I put the notes to the shared Google Doc in there, and I'll put it in there again. But it's definitely a thing that would make sense for folks to just go in and explore and click on committees that may be of interest to, their subcommittee. But more wanting to open it up to folks who were there who might want to share like how it went, any feedback you have for staff. And the next legislative days is in December, and then kicking off into the full legislative session in January. So just any guidance that you have for what you as a commission might want to do for legislative days in December, and anything you wanted to share from September.
Do you have the dates for December?
I think it's the 6th through the 8th. I'll check right now, and I'll actually forward it I'll make sure everybody has it on their calendar.
Of course, I want to send a thank you to everyone who did go and everyone who organized it. I wasn't able to make this one, but the one in May was also very impactful, and I look forward to the one in December.
It's the 10th through the 12th. That's definitely not on the weekend. Apologies for me pulling dates out of my brain. So it's going to be Tuesday, December 10th through Thursday, December 12th.
All righty. Well, I know we're crunch for time, but does anyone truly who went anything that they would love to share? Super impactful highlights.
Just something that actually Nancy pointed out during the launch. Thank you for the launch, you all. It was so great to meet with reps and staff. One of our priorities was missing from our handout, which is earned income tax credit. The good news is that the House Revenue Committee had a hearing on it, and I had an opportunity to do a follow-up with the fellow presenting. His name escapes my mind, but nonetheless, that's the value of being there in person. And he mentioned that ITIN holders, non-citizen Oregonians that pay taxes will be included in this bill to renew earned income tax credit for 6 more years, which is fantastic. I hope that other commissions are interested in that, and maybe Kyle, you can help us get them riled up. One thing that he mentioned is included unless there are amendments. So it is important that we continue the advocacy so no one stays behind, because it's the long session, and it is important to just do the advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. All right, well, everyone put December 10th to the 12th. Hopefully we'll see you down in Salem there. And I want to turn over the floor to Director Saunders.
Yes, before I even go with the executive director's report, I did have a clarifying question around the permanent earned income tax credit. So I didn't hear it being mentioned as one of the priorities earlier when talking about the subcommittee. So I would like just confirmation or to hear from the commission if that is still a priority or if it's not. Because I did not hear it earlier, but I did hear Commissioner Mina mention it.
I don't think it was never not. I don't know how the continuity works, but we know that that is a prior goal that has not been reached. And the continuity, I think, Terrence, you probably can help us. How does the transition from one share to the next share works? And I don't know, but that's one goal that we approved in 2024, and we had several folks present, including Treasurer Tobias Reed, to help us understand the process. In that moment, he said, no, it's the legislature revenue, and it wasn't until this legislative session or legislative days that they, share, and it's in the presentation that they did.
Well, let's get
Absolutely.
some. Maybe let's look back and find out, was that officially voted on as one of our priorities?
Yes.
It was.
Okay. Well, then it'll be added to our subcommittee goals and things to work on.
So I'm going to jump in with the executive director's report. I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible, just recognizing that we are out of time. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because that may be helpful for folks. So please take a look at it. So this is the OCHA Executive Director's Report. It's not sharing yet, but it will in a second. I'm going to zoom in a little bit as well. So around OCHA's budget, OCHA currently has no money left in general funds or other funds, and that's for the entire biennium ending June 30th, 2025. Again, as a reminder, commissioners can seek donations, sponsorships for community events on OCHA's behalf. I'm also going to give a disclaimer that we are currently working on our donations page. I have a meeting following up tomorrow to ensure that that is working. Been working diligently with our enterprise information systems with EIS and should have a resolution as early as tomorrow. For reimbursement requests, please send those requests to myself, Chair Butler, and Ava. Again, there are no commission funds, so we would need to use agency funds, and it is subject to availability, which is also mentioned in our official duties policy. Around commissioner recruitment, there's currently one commissioner that OCHA does not have, so there's one vacancy. Please continue to follow up with folks in the community that would be a good fit for OCHA. I am also going to continue to do the same, as well as my staff. So also for folks that are close to expiring, I have sent emails out for the end of this year for commissioners that their terms are going to be ending. Please make sure that you reapply if wanting to continue on OCHA for the foreseeable future and for the next term, which is 4 years. Internal staff update.
Excuse me, Director Sanders. Regarding the open seat, do we have somebody interested in that seat?
So there are a couple of applications in on Workday. So just one of the things that I'm also trying to prioritize is geographic representation across the state. We currently don't have any representation from Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon, or Coastal Oregon. And I would love to prioritize any, potential commissioner from those geographic areas because we are a statewide commission. But we do have applications in. As soon as the next round of executive appointment recommendations are due to go to the governor's office, I will be submitting names for.
When is that next round?
I believe it is going to be in November or December of this year.
Great, thank you.
And then no problem. And then they will also have to go through the Senate confirmation. To my understanding, there is not going to be a Senate confirmation for new appointees in December for the ledge days. So it will be early on in session when that individual would be able to be confirmed and officially join OCHA. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to continue on with the internal staff update. So myself, am now the permanent executive director of the Oregon Advocacy Commission's office, effective September 1st, was unanimously voted by each commission chair. Our link to the public meeting is also on our website and YouTube channel as well. OACO received our legislative concepts back from Legislative Council. We will be reviewing new statutory language during our joint commission meeting. And again, that will be on October 25th, 2024 at the Labor and Industries Building, Conference Room 260. Still working on finalizing that draft, but there will be a draft going out to all commissioners about a week prior to the meeting. Just as a reminder, still waiting for 2 commissioners to submit their self-attestation forms for compensation. This is a requirement for all commissioners to submit annually, regardless of how much income that you're making. Even if you don't qualify, you still need to submit that form to us so we can have it for our records. There's also 5 commissioners on OCHA. I apologize. I will change that in a second. Around public meeting law changes, there's a couple of changes that I just want to flag for the commission itself. New rules went into effect October 1st, so last week. Serial communication is a big issue around quorum of a commission discussing business. So it can't be communicated in person, email, via phone, if there is quorum in any type of commission discussion outside of a public meeting. Subcommittees may also be public meetings. I'm getting clarification from the Oregon Government Ethics Commission on that. As soon as I hear more information, I will share it with the rest of the commission. And I've also requested a formal training for all commissioners to be trained on the new changes to public meetings law. And I've also sent out resources to all commissioners on OGEX around how to sign up for a training, the rules, and kind of their newsletter that they sent out earlier this week or last week. We will be sending out a best practices survey, so it's likely going to be sent out tomorrow. If not, it will be early next week. So please be on the lookout from that or for that survey. That will be presented in our Ways and Means presentation for the agency in the 2025 legislative session. And this also accompanies our legislative, our ARB, which is the agency request budget, with the Joint Ways and Means committee through the legislature. Also, just wanting to flag a couple of items of sister commissions and the agency. So Governor Kotek will be hosting a reception for OACs, which are the Oregon Advocacy Commissions, on October 16th, 2024. Please RSVP through Laura Hutchins. You will need to respond to her directly to RSVP for the event. And again, this event has been forwarded to every commissioner, and you will need to respond to ensure you have a slot on next Wednesday. We'll be at Mahoney Hall, and attendance is limited to invitees only per the email coming out from the governor's office. We talked through legislative days in September, so I'm going to skip that. Do have 2 events, one that just happened last weekend, which is the Filipino American Northwest Fun Fest. It was held on last Sunday at Director Park in Portland. From what I've heard, it was a very successful event. And then also wanting to highlight OCFW, which is the Oregon Commission for Women, the 40th anniversary for Women of Achievement Awards. And they will be opening up their nominations in the next couple of weeks. So strongly advocate for each commission to be able to nominate somebody from the community that would be a good fit for one of the awards. Other than that, any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to jump in. And that concludes my executive director's report.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your hard work and you letting us know about those things. Covers honestly my last announcements. If you're going to be there next Wednesday, please RSVP. Those people soon to get their forms in for the, I'm going to mispronounce it, attestation.
Yeah.
We're going to have those in. And be sure, thank you all for attending. I know we've already lost some folks, but having quorum today, really felt that. And I look forward to having that again on December 12th. Alrighty, on that note, it is 3:15, not too bad for every couple of months meeting. I appreciate y'all being here. I'm going to officially adjourn. Do I get a second?
You don't need one. You're in charge.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yep. You can completely end the recording.
All right.